everyone? My name's Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. We're weirdly back. Uh, Hold on. Oh yeah, right. I forgot I stashed it under the um under the under my desk. Not used to having a desk like this, so yeah. Um, yeah, we're weirdly back to Five Nights at Freddy's, number 7, Fazbear Fright, The Cliff. And I say we're weirdly back because we should be we shouldn't be back at all because, like I said in a post that I made, this was recorded after the post, by the way. A few months ago. I didn't know if I'm doing audiobooks anymore, so yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish this book off. I'm in college now, by the way, if you can't tell. Um, yeah, now I'm going to you know, gonna finish off this book, and from there figure out how everything is gonna go, stuff like that. I'm still trying to figure my mic. Today we're reading pages 135 to 150. We're reading the story titled "He Told Me Everything." This should be shorter of a read. We do have to read a lot of pages, but honestly, it's not that bad. So, without further ado, let's begin. I wish we were a nice family, Chris said. He and his parents and his sister sat around the second-hand dinner table, eating hot dogs and canned baked beans and macaroni and cheese that come from a box. What the heck is that supposed to mean? Chris' dad said. He was still wearing his uniform from the garage and his name, Dave, stitched with the cursive letters over the jeans breast pocket. Do you think we're all a bunch of jerks or something? I mean, look at your mom. Is this the face of someone who isn't nice? Chris' mom flashed an exaggerated angelic smile and fluttered her mascara-painted eyelashes. And what about your little sister here? She's not nice? Chris' dad pointed the forkful of macaroni and cheese in Emma's direction. I'm very nice, Emma said, pushing her glasses up with a freckled nose. She was in 4th grade and was, Chris thought, bossy beyond her years. She gestured at a green uniform, complete with sash full of badges. I'm a Girl Scout and everything. See, it doesn't get nicer than that, Chris' dad said. And everybody knows me and says I'm reasonably nice. The guys at the garage, my customers, my buddies I go bowling with, people tend to like me, or at least they generally don't run away when they see me approaching them. He reached for another hot dog, a mistake given his growing waistline, Chris thought, and squirted with an excessive amount of mustard. So, what do you mean when you say our family isn't nice? Chris felt like his father misunderstood him. This is a regular occurrence. No, you're all nice people, Chris said. That wasn't what I meant. What I meant was, Chris searched for the vain words that would express his thoughts in offending his family members. I guess I don't know what I meant. But really, Chris knew exactly what he meant. His parents were decent people, good citizens who loved their kids and worked hard for the family and community. His little sister was annoying in the way younger siblings were, and he would never say she was a bad person. That being said, when he compared his family and families to the smartest kids in school, they fell short. Part of it was his parents' education or lack thereof. His mom had started working as soon as she graduated high school and still had the same job at a utility board he'd gotten when he was 18. After he'd gotten when she was 18. After Chris's dad had finished high school, he had gone vocational school to learn how to work on cars. He had an excellent reputation as an auto mechanic, but that job didn't strike Chris as prestigious enough. His dad came home every day, dirty and smelling like axle grease. In Chris's opinion, truly successful people didn't need to take a shower as soon as they got home from work. When Chris went out to the restaurant for a store or school function, he always felt embarrassed. His mom was loud and flashy. She wore the brightest colors she could find and the reddest lipstick and the biggest and shiniest costume jewelry. His dad, despite his daily after-work showers, always had grease under his fingernails, so he never looked quite clean. But then there was a matter of his weight. Chris's dad's belly protruded over his belt. Sometimes his shirt rode up, and this great shelf of his disdain got escaped and hung out for all to see. When he sat on his pants slipped down, his shirt rode up. In the back, what he supposed exposed is even worse. Chris knew his parents were nice. He just wished that they would like and act appropriately in public. The smartest kids at school had parents who always knew how to look and act. The dads wore jackets and ties and khakis and polos. The moms wore tasteful blouses and dress slacks and subtle, expensive jewelry and makeup. These parents were professionals, lawyers or engineers or medical doctors. They had careers and required years of schooling beyond high school. It was the kind of career Chris wanted. The kind of jobs that Chris' parents worked led to deficiency in other area, money. They weren't poor, no, they owned their house. But it was a plain, dumpy house, barely big enough for a family of 4. And the furniture was mostly hand-me-downs from Chris's. Both of the vehicles were ancient and only kept running because of Dad's mechanical know-how. They had a creaky old shared family computer, and his Chris's video game console was so tragically out of date he couldn't buy new games for it anymore. They only got basic cable. Honestly, who just had basic cable these days? When Chris rode around town the school bus, he always noticed the subdivisions were full of fancy two-story brick houses. He liked to fantasize about the families who lived in them, the doctor dads and lawyer moms and their high-achieving kids, all dressed in designer clothes, eating grilled salmon and steamed vegetables and salad for dinner, and then lounging in rooms that they had were ready to be photographed or one of the home and garden magazines you always saw in the waiting room of the doctor's office. The parents probably played golf and tennis at the country club while their kids splashed around in the pool. They never had any worries about how to pay for the kids' college once they were old enough. That's what Chris had meant by wishing they were a nice family. He wanted a nice life for them, and nice things, and a bright future for his sister. Surely it wasn't wrong to want more for life than scrapping by every month to pay the bills, then having to buy off brand items at the grocery store to save a few cents. Emma, it's your turn to do the dishes tonight, Chris's mom said as they finished their meal. Okay, Mom, Emma said, and annoyed Chris now cooperative she was. Didn't she ever get sick of doing the same chores over and over? Chris, I told Mrs. Thomas you'd help take her out her trash tonight, Mom said, getting up from the table. After that, you can take pork chops for his after dinner walk. Chris didn't want to do either of these tasks. Why were parents always exploiting kids for free labor? Mom, he said, trying to keep his voice from rising to a whine. I'm busy tomorrow, the first day of school, and I've got to get ready. Taking out Mrs. Thomas' trash and walking pork chops will take 30 minutes, tops. That gives you plenty of time to get your stuff ready for school tomorrow. She could tell from the tone of Mom's voice that she was going to put up with any argument. Okay, but I won't like it. I know you won't like it, his mom said. It's part of my evil plan to oppress you. She did a fake laugh like a villain in a cartoon. Come on, I'm trying to make you laugh here. Emma, who was already clearing the table, laughed, but Chris wouldn't give his mother satisfaction. With a theatrical laugh, he got up from the table and left by the back door to go to Mrs. Thomas's house. Miss Thomas was old, so old that Chris's parents were always amazed that she was still managed to live alone and take care of herself. She had been a high school English teacher for over 40 years, teaching Chris's parents along with many generations of the town's high school students. Now, though, she had been retired and widowed for many years and lived in a small, boxy, book-cluttered house and just her cats for company. She cooked and did light housekeeping to herself, but Chris's parents helped her out with anything that required heavy lifting, or at least, in the case of the garbage, they forced Chris to help her. The arrangement was that night before garbage day, Chris would come to Mrs. Thomas' house, empty all the trash cans in the house, take the bags to the big garbage pail in the driveway, which she would then take to the side of the road and it would be ready for pickup in the next morning. Chris had once asked Dad if he could at least be paid for his weekly responsibility, but his dad said, sometimes you don't do a job for money. You do it because it's a decent thing to do. Chris had taken that as a no. Chris knocked on Mr. Thomas's door and prepared to wait. He moved slowly, and it was always took her a long time to answer. And she finally came to the door. She was wearing the same yellow cardigan she wore year round. Even now it was hot outside. She was a tiny, delicate, bird-like woman. Her glasses were thick, and her hair was thin and gray. Hello, Christopher. It's nice to see you to come over and help me. She was the only person who ever called him Christopher. Sure, Chris said. But really, it didn't matter being nice. It was more that he was still a kid, and so when his parents made him do something, his only choice was to do it and suffer the consequences. Please, come in, she said, holding the door open. There's just one big bag of trash that needs to go out. It's in the kitchen. The house was dark and smelled musty. The walls were lined with full bookshelves, and every piece of furniture in the living room had at least one cat sleeping on it. She followed her to the kitchen. Could I interest you for some cookies before I put you to work? Miss Thomas asked, gesturing the cat-shaped cookie jar on the kitchen counter. No, thank you. I just had dinner. Miss Thomas's cookies were cheap and kind they sold at 99-cent store, and they were always stale. After taking up her cookie offer twice, he had learned to say no. Well, that's never stopped me from having a cookie or two, Miss Thomas said, smiling. Your mother tells me you're starting high school tomorrow. That must be exciting for you. Yes, ma'am, Chris said, anxious in the conversation to end so he can get back to doing stuff that really mattered. She was bragging about what a good student you were and how much you loved to learn. You know, I taught at your high school for many years, English literature. If you ever need help with anything in academics, just let me know, and if you ever want to borrow any of my books, you're always more than welcome to. Thanks, but I'm more of a science guy than a literature guy. Don't put yourself in a pigeonhole yet. You're too young, Miss Thomas said. And there's already no reason you can't be both a science guy and a literature guy. There's so many wonderful things in the world to learn. Chris lifted the garbage bag filled with mostly with empty cat food tins and a trash can. I'll take this out and roll the big so you can go out of the road, okay? Miss Thomas nodded. Thank you, Christopher. You're such a great help to me. Chris walked back towards the yard, and he knew Miss Thomas was trying to be nice, but in the kind of sad that she thought she could help him with the school stuff. He had gone to the little local college a bazillion years ago, then taught high school English until he retired. It wasn't like she got some great intellectual, plus she was so old she'd probably forgotten what little she had known. She was sure that she could teach him nothing. Chris opened the gate and fenced-in backyard where Porkchop was wagging and waiting. As soon as Chris was inside, Porkchop jumped up on him and craned his neck to go and lick Chris's face. "Get down, Porkchop, you're getting me all muddy." Chris backed away from his dog, dirty paws, and tried to dust off his pants. Chris just wanted a dog, but Porkchop was not the dog he wanted. Chris had wanted one to be smart, beautiful, purebred dogs, and he was seen on dog shows and TV, a border collie or a Shetland sheepdog. But his dad had said they couldn't afford a purebred dog, and anyway, it was immoral to buy an expensive dog from a breeder when there were so many dogs in shelters that needed good homes. And so, one evening, and Chris was in the sixth grade, his dad had come home with Porkchop, a brown and tan, overgrown, snaggletooth shelter mutt who bore no resemblance to the elegant herding breeds Chris admired. It immediately clear that Porkchop also lacked the intelligence to learn tricks or agility skills Chris had dreamed of teaching a dog. Instead, Porkchop was a happy idiot whose favorite activities focused on his belly, either filling it or getting it rubbed. "Ready for a walk?" Chris asked, without much enthusiasm. Porkchop made his Chris lack of enthusiasm by wagging, barking, and running in small circles. "If you won't sit, I can't put a leash on," Chris said. He couldn't believe how much time he was wasting carrying out his parents' orders. He attached the leash to Porkchop's shoulder. "Once around the block, that's all you get," he said. Walking around the neighborhood was depressing. The house was small and identical to little boxes, which had originally been built for the workers in steel mill, and had shut down many years before Chris was born. The yards on which the houses sat and the postage stamp small, and they were sure he was the only kid in the science club who lived in a lousy neighborhood. He hoped he could be where he lived a secret, and other kids who, he was sure, all lived in fancy neighborhoods on the west side of town with names like Wellington Manor or Kensington Estates. As promised, he took Porkchop around the block once, then brought him to the house and emptied a can of dog food into his bowl. Porkchop happily gobbled it up. Finally, with all his chores done, Chris could go to his room and start getting ready for the first day of high school. Not only did he need to get his backpack filled and organized, he also had to decide what he was going to wear. His mom had taken him to shopping a week before and bought him 5 shirts, 3 pairs of jeans, and some new sneakers. And they were gone as awful as big box store because the prices were too affordable. That what Chris had picked out and looked okay, but he wished he could have real name brand clothes from the ones at good stores in the mall. His mom said nobody could tell the difference, but he knew this was a lie. She told him to try to make him feel better. Still, Chris was feeling hopeful. The first day of high school was a fresh start, a chance for him to prove himself, a whole new ball game, his dad would say. A man never met a cliche he didn't like. The thing that Chris was most excited about was joining the science club. At West Valley High, Mr. Little's science class and the club he supervised were legendary. Mr. Little's classroom was lit by plasma balls and lava lamps and a string of glowing bubble lights. He was famous for demonstrating spectacular experiments that involved fire and carefully controlled explosions. Though he said he made the students didn't work on anything he wouldn't put them in actual danger. He also famous for jump-starting student projects that produced extraordinary results and almost always won science fairs in the West Valley competed with other schools. Competed with other schools. Science Club was famous for bringing back numerous trophies to West Valley, and Science Club students had a reputation of being the school's highest achievers. On freshman orientation day, when the new students were given the opportunity to sign up for class, Kristen made a beeline for the Science Club table. That was the only club that he signed up for. Why waste your time on anything inferior, Chris thought, when you could just be with the best? Chris was especially looking forward to this weekend, which was the traditional lock-in that Mr. Little held every year with the students. The entire class would spend the night at school, working on a secret project Mr. Little's assigned and reputation for being a life-changing experience, one that secured your status in the science club and the school. Chris wanted his status to be the best of the best. "Chris, your friends are at the door," Chris's mom called in the living room. Josh and Kyle, Chris thought. He felt vaguely annoyed. He had a lot of preparation to do and to ensure that he made the right first impression on the first day. He was in a serious mood, and Josh and Kyle never were serious in anything. "Be there in a minute," he yelled back. He finished loading his backpack up with school supplies before he went to the door. At least he can get that done despite the interruption. Josh and Kyle were waiting in the living room. Josh had let his hair grow out over summer, and it hung in dark brown waves on his shoulders. Kyle had dyed a purple streak in his hair and was wearing a t-shirt for some brand with a skull and crossbones on it. Chris was a little nervous about the fact that Josh and Kyle would also be starting in West Valley High tomorrow. They had been friends since they were preschoolers, but he hoped that they would hang out all over during school hours. They were nice guys, but he feared the image they projected wouldn't go over well with the science club kids. He didn't want his old friends to hold him back from making new, higher status friends. "Hey," Josh said, pulling his hair back behind his ears in a habit he'd picked up and letting it grow. "That's our last night of freedom." "Yep," Kyle said. "Tomorrow they lock us back up and throw away the key until next summer." "Actually, I'm kind of excited about going back to school," Chris said. "I mean, it's high school, you know." "Same thing with a different name," Josh said, sounding like he was bored already. "We're going to take a ride bikes over the dairy bar and then go down to the lake. Want to come?" Of course you are, Chris thought. It was that they always did. He was supposed to be might as well come along for old time's sake. Tomorrow his life was going to change. It was full of smart friends, science projects, and academic achievement. The ride bikes and ice cream to childhood was just a memory. Sure, why not? He rolled the boys outside and got his bike. Raced you to the dairy bar, Kyle yelled like he always did. They took off. Chris intentionally didn't pedal as fast as Josh and Kyle. He figured he might as well let them win. There are many achievements in his future, so maybe he can let one of them win the race to have some small sense of accomplishment. Soon, he would be leaving them in the dust in other ways. Josh won, but not that it mattered. At the dairy bar, they each ordered their customary chocolate vanilla swirl cones and sat on one of the wooden picnic tables to eat them. Even though the ice cream was good, Chris could still imagine better treats he would have in the future once he had risen to the social status he aspired to. Then he would eat luxurious desserts and only read on seen or TV crepes, Suzettes, molten chocolate lava cake, creme brulee. I haven't seen you in the server much lately, Chris, Kyle said in the middle of school, like they were like to meet up online and play Night Quest, a popular multiplayer game together. Yeah, I guess I have more important things on my mind lately, Chris said, licking his cone. Why, is something wrong? Josh asked. Nobody in our family is sick or anything, are they? No, nothing like that, Chris said. I've just been thinking about, the future. The future, like with robot overlords and flying cars, Josh asked, grinning. They're so incapable of being serious as infuriating. No, Chris said, like my future, my goals, and what I want for out of life. That's some pretty heavy thinking for summer break, Kyle said. At the beginning of our summer, I would take my brain out, put it in a jar, and put the shower in the shelf, and don't take it out again until school starts. Josh laughed. So that's what you've been doing when you get home tonight? Putting your brain back in your head? Nah, I'll probably wait till the morning. No need to start thinking any sooner than I have to. Josh and Kyle were both laughing, but Chris couldn't muster a smile. How could he even end up being friends with these losers? He was supposed to be. It was just because Josh lived next door and Kyle lived across the street. They'd been flung together because they'd been the same age and lived in the same place. If Chris had grown up in a nicer neighborhood, he would have ended up with a better class of friends. A better class of friends, or maybe a better attitude towards them. It's really hard to say. But that is it for today's reading of Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear's Fright the Cliff. So yeah, today we my water bottle just fell down. Very small desk. Today we read pages 135 to 150. 15 pages, like I said, it's not that bad. And next time we will be reading pages 151 to 165. But you don't care about that, do you? No one ever does. Because really, it's time for the reading corner of the day. Alright, so today we are learning about the Irish Water Spaniel, a breed of spaniel that we haven't covered yet, and it's Irish. So you gotta know it's pretty good. Well, it's also very fluffy and looks like an emo. I mean, look at him. Looks like he listens to Linkin Park. Not saying that while I'm wearing a Linkin Park shirt. Totally not. But yeah, he looks like a weirdo. But of course, before you can ever make fun of something, you should know the history of it. So the history of the Irish Water Spaniel is that the Irish Water Spaniel is one of the oldest, most distinctive spaniels. Dogs resembling them are depicted in manuscripts from 1,000 years ago. In the 1100s mentioned it's made of dogs called Shannon Spaniels, Rat-tailed Spaniels, Whip-tailed Spaniels, or Irish Water Spaniels. Continued references of the Irish Water Spaniel could be found in 1600 on. Around that time, the King of France is said to have been presented with an Irish Water Spaniel. Whether the breed was one to be found in different varieties or whether several similar breeds were for bears, it's matter of conjecture. What is agreed upon is several similar spaniels existed in Ireland: the Northern Irish, Southern Irish, and Tweed Spaniels. The Southern Irish Spaniel, also called McCarthy's breed, is credited to being the eventual major forebear of today's dogs. In the mid-1800s, the appearance of the prolific sire Botched, who so influenced the breed that he often credited as being the progenitor of the modern Irish Water Spaniel. The breed was entered a show ring in both Britain and America by the late 1800s, and in 1875 as the third most popular sporting dog. Despite its enchantedly clownish appearance and its depth water retrieving ability, the Irish Water Spaniel has lost popularity and on rarely seen in the show ring and found as a family pet. So you know the weirdly royal history of the Irish Water Spaniel. So what else? What about the temperament of it? Well, you want to own this dog since it's now commonly found in homes. So the temperament of the Irish Water Spaniel is that the Irish Water Spaniel goes at everything in life with gusto and enthusiasm. It loves to swim, run, hunt, and play with needs a lots of exercise. A clown at heart, and it could be suborn and independent, so it needs to be trained with patience, firmness, and a sense of humor. It tends to be reserved to strangers and is generally good with children, though some can be timid. So, pretty good with children, pretty fun. It's basically a clown. But, sometimes could be a little bad. So now you know this dog and you know how fluffy it is, so you know what, now your kid wants one. So what's the upkeep? How do I keep this dog up and running? Well, the upkeep of the Irish Water Spaniel is this active, athletic, inquisitive breed needs a lot of mental and physical exertion to keep it from becoming frustrated or bored. An hour of free running and strenuous playing a day is necessary to satisfy its needs. Obedience work can also be helpful in giving it mental challenges it enjoys. The curly coat needs brushing and combing 2 to 3 times a week, plus scissoring every few months. Like all dogs, it loses its coat periodically. However, the hair tends to become trapped in the other hairs rather than fall off. If not combed out, they will form mats and cords. Mats and cords in dog hair is more like can cause serious problems because that's where disease and bugs can start living. And once that happens, it can get real bad real fast. So brush your dog. Of course, now, if you are a child, please cover your ears. If you are an adult or a teenager, please get your notebooks because it is now time to talk about the health of the Irish Water Spaniel. The health of the Irish Water Spaniel, for its major concerns, is CHD and ODS externa, basically eyes and brain. Minor concerns are discasis, I think this is pronounced. It's more of a hip thing. It's occasionally seen with sarcophagus. Wait, what? That's not sarcophagus. What am I talking about? Megasophagus? Megasophagus. Seizures and nail bed disease. So its nails can easily get disease, I assume. Suggested tips are on the hip, but I would also say on the body itself more than the hip. Although as a spaniel, it is a running dog. Its lifespan is 10 to 12 years, and there's a special note given to us by the Encyclopedia of Dog Breeds, second edition by D. Caroline Colley, PhD, that states may have adverse reactions to sulfa drugs in ivermectin. So, watch out for what you give it. Finally, second to finally, you don't have family, you don't have anyone, but you still want this dog. So what's the form and function? Well, the form and function of the Irish Water Spaniel is the tallest spaniel. However, it must never be so large that it be pulled into a boat. The body is a medium length. The whole being is slightly rectangular in appearance. The general appearance suggests both dash and endurance. The gait is smooth and ground covering. The coat is one of the breed's distinctive features. The body is covered with a double coat consisting of crisp ringlets. Its combination imparts water, weather, and thorn resistance to the dog and enabling to hunt in the harshest conditions. The Irish Water Spaniel's expression says it all: alert, intelligent, and quizzical. So this is a very intelligent dog, but we should learn more about that in the in the tier list. So 5 is the best, 4 is better, 3 is average, 2 is below, and 1 is the worst. Now that you know, let's get to the reading. So its energy level, exercise requirements, and playfulness are all at a 5. So it's very playful, very much energy, and very much needs a lot of exercise. Its affection level, friendliness towards dogs, friendliness towards other pets are at a 3. So it's average. As long as they're nice to it, it'll be nice to them. Friendliness towards strangers is at a 2, so like I said earlier, it's going to be alert and a little more strenuous. Ease of training is at a 5, so it's pretty easy to train. Like, it's got to be one of the easiest to train. Their watchdog ability is at a 4, their protection ability is at a 3, which I said before we get to the guard dog type of section of this book, you're not going to see a protection level higher than 3, maybe even 4. Grooming requirements are at a 3, which is surprising. I'd put these at more of a 5, especially since they can get disease very easily from their fur not getting groomed. Cold tolerance is at a 4, and heat tolerance is at a 3. So basically, they can take the cold easier than the heat. So yeah, keep an eye on that. The healthy weight of a male should be around 55 to 65 pounds, and the healthy weight of a female Irish Water Spaniel should be 45 to 58 pounds. The average height of a male Irish Water Spaniel is 22 to 24 inches, pretty tall, and for a female, it's 21 to 23. I guess it's not that I guess it's not that surprised. I guess it's not that surprising, of course, because Ooh, and the next type of spaniel reading is something you'll learn about in the next episode. So I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.